Okay, so I tried to do you now, but it's driving me bonkers. First, it wouldn't like stream. Like it did the snapshot before the stream, and then it wouldn't actually stream. Then I tried again, and it wouldn't even do the snapshot. And it's like, I'm guessing the server's busy. So let's turn that down just a touch, since we're right by the thing. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to hear me. So I'm doing this thing my sister got me to do. It's a temperature blanket. Now, I started out with different colors that are really hard to see the contrast of whatever I had, honestly. But this, okay, breakdown of a temperature blanket is this purple that you mostly see is the coldest temperature. This was not obviously not designed for Minnesota winter, but so come on, get out of there. I'm gonna have to unzip it. So the coldest temperature for me is this color, and that goes up to 33 degrees, which is why I've been mostly using this one. And then that's the next. These are really not visible. Okay, that's kind of a. I wish I had a light in here, but I don't. It's over there. Anyway, the next temperature, and this goes to 44 degrees if I remember correctly. And then the next one up is this. So this is actually purple, even though it looks like dark blue. So for whatever day that temperature is in, most of them have been this color. You do a row. Once a day, you look at the temperature, and whatever the temperature is, you pick that color, you do a row. So when your temperature blanket is done, since you do it for an entire year, let's mute while he's talking, otherwise you won't be able to understand me. Okay. So when you're done, because you do it once a day for an entire year, it will have 365 rows. So I could have gone with just a single row. That little hair is going to drive me nuts. Could have gone with a single row of double crochet or single crochet or whatever. But no, I decided I was going to do this pattern. We can unmute because it's doing music now. Anyway, this is it looks to me like seashells, so that's what I call it. But they call it sweet pea. Maybe sweet pea flowers look like this, I don't know. So, whatever you do, start with, or whatever you start with, it's going to be in multiples of 8. So you're going to do, you know what, why don't I just, instead of showing you on the finished one, why don't I start a new one with a color you'll be able to see. So we're going to pause and go get some. So I have some nice, hopefully visible yarn, but because it is so thin, we cannot use our 8.5mm hook. It is so thin, we need to use this tiny little thing, which is 2.75mm. No, you cannot play with my temperature blanket. Leave it alone. So, hopefully you can see this yarn. So, you bring it around your hook, and you tie just that little, that's it. And I think we need to bring the camera closer so you can see what the heck I'm doing. Because this yarn is so darn thin. And because my lighting isn't good. So, we'll chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 24. So, you have your 24. Now you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, loop around into that 4th stitch there, and it is really tiny. So you'll do I don't know if you saw that double crochet. Sorry about that. So there's one there. You're going to chain, which is your way of skipping a stitch. So because you chained one, you're going to skip one. Through, around, through two of the, okay, I didn't do that very well demonstrating. Okay, around, through into that second stitch, loop, pull through two of the loops on here, and then loop and then pull through those. Loop, around, through two of those, around, and then through those two. Now, you're going to skip another one, and you're going to start to see a pattern because there usually is a pattern with these things. So we're going to skip that one. I can go really fast, but I'm not because this is supposed to be a tutorial. So we're going to do 1, 2 double crochets, and we're going to skip one, which is harder to see on the smaller yarn, but that's okay. So 1, 2. If you're wondering who's in the background, that is Peter Hollins. I just became a patron of his, so I'm watching a marathon of his stuff. Although on this playlist, there may be some home free. So 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, all the way across. Okay, so we have little rows. 2 skip, 3 skip, 2 skip, 3 skip. Oh my gosh, I messed up already because I have 2 3s. Well, this is only a tutorial. I can unravel it when I'm done. So, anyway, if you want to know how people get to not have these little trailing ends, flip that up in front of your hook. And then do your 1, 2, 3. And it's kind of hooked in there a little bit. Now, we're just going to, you see how there's these 3 here? That was supposed to have been a 2 space. So I'm really sorry about that. But that's okay. So you want to stick your needle into, actually no, it was supposed to be a 3. Anyway, you stick your needle through the gap here on that second little bit of 3, or not, that second like hole between the stitches. Like it's double crochet, there's 3 double crochets and there's 2 gaps in between. So you want to stick the needle through there and do your double crochet. And this little standing stone looking thing, Stonehenge looking thing, is going to be one of these when you come back around. Now I still have this little tail here. I'm going to hold it along the top of the work that I was doing here. So in the middle of this little standing stone, in the little doorway there, we do 1, and then we're going to do into the same place 2, 3, 4, hello Ms., 5. Now, I have just stitched that little tail into the work. So we've done 5. Ms., please don't, I'm going to pause while the cat's in front of the camera. So we're going to have cat in the video, that's fine. So after you did your 5 double crochet into that one little space, you're going to do a single crochet, which is our skip. And we're going to try to ignore the cat that's there. So, into these little, okay, that's fine. You're going to try to play with the yarn later, I know that. So, the little 3 standing stones. Again, you're going to hold this over the yarn there, over your work there. So in the gaps there, you're going to do a single double crochet. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but you know, see how I did that in the gap? Like here's this little gap, and it's going to go through the gap. So there's our double crochet. And again, this is going to be a standing stone where this little 5 crochet thing is going to go. So we do our little skip. And I know I messed up, so I'm just gonna, I guess we're gonna show you again. So through between the gap there where the standing stones are, we just have a couple of pie symbols where we didn't want them. That's fine. So little pie symbol, standing stone, whatever you want to call it, in that little gap. The way I think of it is these little standing stone figures are like pillars that hold up a potted plant. So the 5 crochets that we do into our little pie symbol, standing stone, whatever you want to think of it as.
Hey everyone, I really hope you enjoyed Christy Methods. I did this song.
So,
as requested it.
I don't know if you can see, but the little 5 crochets sit on top of the thing. I think it'll be easier, single crochet, it'll be easier to see on the way back around, even though I accidentally put the wrong pattern. Ordinarily, I would unravel and restart, but this is simply a demo. So, now when you get to the end, in this little thing on the end here, you're going to do 1, 2, my bracelet's touching the cat's ear, that's fine, 3, you're not going to do a full 5, you're only going to do 3, so you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, so you can turn back around. So see how I've got these 3? Much like I did with the oopsie, we're going to, in the gap between, like, see here's this first gap. The second gap, we're going to put the needle through and do a double crochet. You're going to start to see a pattern. So skip 1, and in our little pillar, we're going to do our 5 double crochets. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's really interesting, 5, trying to crochet over a cat, can I just say. So do our single crochet when we're done. Now, we have our 5 crochets. How do we get our pillar? You find that middle one. You know, there's 5, so you find 1, 2, 3. On either side of that 3rd double crochet, it's really easier to see with the bigger yarn, but most of my yarn is hard to see on camera. So, it's hard to see, and I'm sorry. So, and then in your little pillar, you do your 5 crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you chain 1, and yeah, so there's my oopsie. But covering up the oopsie, this is kind of how it goes. I don't know if you can see. So the seashells or potted plants alternate top and bottom with the pillars or pie symbols or standing stones or whatever you want to think of them as. So when you're, I'll fix that later. So the temperature blanket, because now you can see on the bottom it's all nice and flat, because that's where I did the 2 space, 3 space, 2 space, 3 space. And I didn't actually make any mistakes on that one, thankfully. So when you've done rows and rows and rows of it, this is the pattern you wind up with. And that was my crochet hook hitting the floor. So that is a basic, quickie, not beginner demo of how to do the Sweetpea pattern and a little bit about what a temperature blanket is. At the end of the year, you can look back and see what temperature fluctuations you had over the year. As you can see, we really only had one nice warm day for Minnesota. Yeah, trying to grab the crochet hook before the cat gets it. But it is so tiny and I have no nails. Okay, so that, as you can see, Minnesota's cold. We have only had one day above 44 degrees this whole winter. So, if you live in Florida, yours will have red and orange on it because those are the nice hot colors and that'll be in the summer. Mine will never be above 80 some odd degrees. And I'm cool with that because these are my favorite colors. Purples and blues and greens. Blue-greens. So, yeah. That was temperature blanket, Sweetpea pattern, and my cat.